Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Breakfast with Blaha. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the deadlift. All right, this is a video I'm probably going to have to remake quite a few times, as I still get a lot of people, in spite of the fact that my own deadlift programming is public on my channel. You guys see what I do for deadlifting. It's the same methods I'd use to get my deadlift past 600. All right, been pretty consistent with it. You guys see stuff like Mike's vlogs. You guys see Antonio's vlogs, because Mike's vlogs are here and the people can see what Antonio does on his own channel. And then I have other lifters who have displayed. And I've said this in the past. I made a thread on Facebook a while back saying this is how I program for deadlifts. And then I linked several of my guys pulling down below. All of them at least mid-500s pullers, right? All of them. And I have guys like that who I've linked to at this point are pulling like in the 550, 560, 570 range who weigh less than 200 pounds. Some of them don't even compete in powerlifting. They just want to be strong. So to give an idea of how I program, I don't use rep work. I want to repeat, I do not program rep work for deadlifts for my lifters, because I keep having people saying, hey, do you think this is good? Should I do 5x5? Should I do 3x3? What percentages? Hey, can I do 5 singles in place of max effort work? And it's like, no, you need to do max effort work. And you need to do speed work. And that is basically how I program my deadlifters. That's how I program them. It doesn't matter what sport my people compete in. We only add deadlift specialization work if you have a serious weak point and we need to do some supplemental pulls. And if we do supplemental pulls specifically for a weak point, which is you're really weak off the floor, you're weak at the lockout, we just do singles. And I usually have them do singles at around 85%, right? But that is not how most of my people deadlift. And again, I've had lifters who we get past the 600-pound deadlift without doing any of that. So how do I program it? Max effort, dynamic effort, supplemental work. So what does that entail? Most of my lifters are not doing 2 maxes in a day. I may program some of my advanced guys that way as we get further along. So that generally means we only do 1 max effort lower lift per week. 1 week it's a squat, 1 week it's a deadlift. Sometimes we rotate in a good morning. But we pull for some sort of max on average once every 2 weeks. So twice a month, averaging 2 heavy pulls a month where they just ramp up to a max. And we rotate what that is. If they have bands and chains, we use a lot of bands and chains. But usually, again, if it's a lifter who can both sumo and conventional, we rotate conventional pulls, sumo pulls. We rotate them off of blocks, off deficits. So, I mean, even if they just have boards or pads or mats to stand on or to put underneath the plates, we do different variations. Occasionally, I'll have them match on a snatch grip deadlift. We'll do deficit deadlifts. Sometimes we'll do a low pin pull. And those can be done conventional or sumo. The same thing with bands and chains. If I have a lifter who has access to band pegs and has bands, we'll do band work. If they have access to chains, we'll do chain work. We rotate through different max effort lifts. And this again, 1 pull every 2 weeks. Just ramp up to a max on whatever variation, and we rotate that variation all the time. I generally don't want them doing the same variation more than once every 12 weeks. That means we need at least 6 variations. What about the speed work? I program, for most of my people, 10 singles. Hey, that's our baseline. Some of my guys go to like 6 doubles, 8 doubles. We do 10 singles. Usually if they're running straight weight, if they don't have access to bands and chains, what does that mean? My baseline wave for them is 60% 1 week of their max for 10 singles, right? For speed pulls, 60% of your max. 65 the next week, 70% the next week, then restart it. If I have a lifter who's really slow, they can't pull fast. We might just do 50% of their max every time and just stay there. Again, this is if we only have straight weight, and then every 3 weeks I change the variation. So if they're doing conventional, they go to sumo, or we go to a deficit deadlift, or we go to a block pull, because I can rotate through those. I could actually do a conventional, then we go to a sumo, then we go to a conventional deficit, then we could go to a sumo block pull, and then repeat that cycle. It can be a 12-week cycle with 4 different variations. If they have bands and chains, we use those. Occasionally we'll pull them out and do straight weight, or do block pulls for straight weight. But if I have a lifter who has access to bands, I'll do bands. Right? We'll do 3 weeks of bands on sumo, 3 weeks of bands on conventional. If they have chains, we'll do the same thing. If they have access to both, I'll just rotate between bands and chains. I rotate bands and chains every other phase. Speed pulls, that's what we do for our volume on the deadlift. I do heavies. No one's doing 5s at 80% or 75%. I'm not doing that. Occasionally I've had lifters do that. You know what? I don't think their deadlifts don't really go up, and they just get beat up. And I want people to understand, I mean, this is not telling you guys this is the only way to program deadlifts. I am telling you that this is how I program for my lifters. So if you're coming asking me for advice, I'm not going to go do a Russian deadlift program and hand it to you and say, yeah, do it exactly like Boris Shako does, right? Because that's not what I'm doing. I'm running the conjugate programming. So if you come to me for advice, that's what I'm going to recommend. I don't like real high specificity deadlifting for a lot of lifters. It just beats them up. And some of that really has its place more for elite people. A lot of those really, really advanced tools that people are doing with a little more specificity on top of it is generally for people who are already very advanced deadlifters, like trying to become elite. It's not necessary. If your goal is to just deadlift 550, there's no point in even going there. We don't need that. What I'm describing will get you there. All right, then supplemental work. So and all 3 of these are required. To make this work, people will say, oh, that can't work. You're only doing this heavy pull. Or you're only doing these speed pulls. That's not enough. It's like, but we do supplemental work. We build up the quads, right? The hamstrings, the glutes, the erectors, the lats, the traps. So what do we mean by supplemental work? Good mornings, Romanian deadlifts. We could do some Bulgarian split squats. We could do glute ham raises. We could do leg curls, glute bridges, rows, different types of rows, mostly standing rows in this case. For some of it could be chest supported. Pull-ups, chin-ups, high pulls, shrugs, right? We build all the muscles of the deadlift up with hypertrophy movements. Whatever the weakest link is, we concentrate on that more. If hamstrings are really weak, we find a way to do more hamstring work. Okay, if the lats are too weak, we do more lat work. This is how we build a deadlift up. This is how I do it. So if you're coming to me asking for deadlift advice, how do you program deadlifts? I'm not going to go, oh yeah, we do a bunch of 5s at this and 3x3 at 85%. No, I'm not having my people do that. That's not what they do. And I'm not saying that can't work. But again, people want to know how I do it. What do I recommend? Max effort work at a low frequency for it. Speed pulls every single week, rotating through waves. Lots and lots of supplemental work to hypertrophy all the muscles of the deadlift. That's how I do it. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.